2018. That was the year Universal broke ground on what would become their most ambitious project ever. And 1 year later in 2019, Universal unveiled to the world what they were working on. A brand new, state-of-the-art, ground-up theme park that would be dubbed Universal's Epic Universe. A park that would cost around the price tag of 3 Burj Khalifas and would put competitors like Disney to shame. And man, this park, it is something. I finally got the opportunity to go to Epic Universe, and I gotta say, it is worth the hype. It's got great rides, great theming, and it's just a fun time. I'm aware a lot of people online have been starting to hate on Epic Universe for some reason. Micro criticizing this park to death because everyone's been hyping this park up for the better part of 7 years. So realistically, how could this park ever live up to anyone's expectations? But when I went to Epic Universe, I didn't care. I was just there for a great time. And for once, I did the impossible. I put my negativity aside. I know, shocker, me, Great American Coasters. But don't worry, dear viewer, I'm not gonna completely suck off Universal in this video. Because even though Epic Universe, by definition, is an elite theme park, it in no way is my favorite theme park. Even though this park is new, that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna affect my opinion. There are other theme parks out there that I 100% think are better than Epic Universe. Of course, this may change. This park did just open, so it's gonna take a little time for it to evolve and grow. But as of now, after my one visit to Epic Universe, my knee-jerk reaction is telling me that Epic Universe is probably my third favorite theme park, which is still pretty remarkable. It's in my top 3. But man, Epic Universe, it is just something else. I only had 1 day here, and I definitely did not see everything. In fact, I wish I stayed here for 2 days. No, 3 days. Screw it, I just want to give Universal more of my money. Can I do that? Can I live within the Helios Grand Hotel? Could I have just done that? Anything to reimburse Universal for my enjoyment. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me give you a play-by-play on what my day was like at Epic Universe. So, fortunately, when I went to this park, I did opt to stay in the Grand Helios Hotel. I thought, hey, I'm only going to be here for 1 day. I might as well make it count. I'm going to be as close to Epic as possible so I can walk right in at rope drop. And the Helios was the best way to do it. The main reason you stay at this hotel is for the location. You cannot get a better spot than the Helios. You are right there in the park. All you have to do is walk downstairs and go out the back door. And there it is, Epic Universe, plain as day. When I got to Helios at night, it was like an aw crap moment. Because right when you walk in the lobby, you just see Epic Universe. And this was the first time I've ever seen the park in person. I've never walked by Epic while they were constructing it. I've only seen videos of the construction for, again, the better part of 7 years. And there it was, at night, everything lit up. And the weird thing is, it didn't feel small. Everything that I gazed upon looked like how I envisioned it. In terms of my actual hotel experience at the Helios, it was okay. It's nothing spectacular. To reiterate, you're paying for the location. That is the main reason you stay at the Helios. The hotel looks like every other modern hotel, very Vegas inspired. 2 queen beds, shower, minimal aesthetic. I really wasn't expecting much at the Helios. I just wanted to be here for the 1 hour early entry. Now when we got into the park around 10 a.m., we started to run into a problem that would become a common theme at Epic Universe. That being ride closures. I knew that coming to Epic Universe during past member previews, not everything would be working. The park is still technically in technical rehearsal, so not every effect would be functional. Some rides would be down more often than they're open, yada yada yada. But when I walked into early entry, I was under the impression that Stardust Racers, Donkey Kong, and Mario Kart would be open. Only Mario Kart was open for early entry, which kind of sucked. Because I first tried going to Stardust, that was closed. I then went over to Donkey Kong where I waited for about 30 minutes until the ride got delayed, so we abandoned ship. So at this point, Stardust and Donkey Kong were out of commission, and we were only left with Mario Kart, which had accumulated a 120-minute wait because it was the only thing open. This was a bit of a bummer to start the day, but I wasn't too worried. I knew that it was past member previews, so it didn't matter that it was crowded in the morning, because later in the day, the crowds would thin out. That's what I thought, but apparently I was wrong. When I was looking at the wait times a week prior, I saw that each ride was getting an average wait time from around 20 to 30 minutes. Yes, 20 to 30 minutes. In other words, the park was basically dead. However, that wasn't the case when I went. Apparently, the day I went, Universal, they just decided to open up pre-sales to everybody. Now you didn't need an annual pass, you could just buy a ticket. No strings attached. And that kind of screwed me over. I went to Epic Universe under the impression that I would be there during pass member previews, so the crowds wouldn't be that bad. That's the entire reason why I went. But instead, Universal, they just opened up ticket sales to everybody, so they completely ruined the crowd level. Now the lines went from a 20-minute to 30-minute wait to a 50 to 60-minute wait. Not the worst wait times, it's actually pretty typical for an Orlando theme park, but that's not what I signed up for. For once, I was the insider looking out. I had the exclusivity. I never get that opportunity. It's like when I'm at Disney and I'm standing in the standby line and I watch all the Fast Pass people whizzing by me, getting on the ride immediately. I never splurge for that luxury, and the one day I actually go all out, Universal pulls this crap. How irritating. But enough of the crowds, let's talk about the main reason why I went to Epic Universe. The lands. The first land that I experienced was Super Nintendo World, and this was the first time I've ever seen Super Nintendo World. I never did the one in Japan, I never did the one in Hollywood. This was going to be my first impression. And I have to say, Universal, you've outdone yourself. This was probably one of my least anticipated lands because, I never really grew up with Nintendo. I played Mario Kart once on the DS, so I didn't have much nostalgia going in. But Super Nintendo World, everything felt larger than life, more so than any other land. Plus, there was so much dynamic and kinetic energy. Basically, every object in Super Nintendo World was moving. You can't avert your gaze from the motion in this land. Everything here is so detailed, bright, and saturated with movement in every direction. Same with Donkey Kong Country. The only difference with that land, it's not as big as Super Nintendo World. It's not really a land, it's kind of a mini land or a plaza, just to showcase the Donkey Kong roller coaster. Still, Universal, they made sure to make every inch of that section as detailed as possible. Now, I'm not sure if this is controversial to say, but I think this might be my favorite land at Epic. Yeah, Super Nintendo World. I wasn't expecting that. I thought this would rank like 3rd or 4th for me. Nope, it's probably my favorite. The land is just very pleasing to look at, and I love the interactivity with Super Nintendo World. I did not buy the Nintendo wristband to use within the land, but that's okay, because I had just as fun watching other people interacting with Super Nintendo World. It's kind of like when you're in Diagon Alley or Hogsmeade, and you're watching other people use a wand to interact with the land. It's kind of the same principle. Again, the kinetic energy and play features within the land really make this area special. In terms of the actual rides at Super Nintendo World, they're good, but they're not my favorite. Minecart Madness, it's a great supporting coaster, however, it's a little rough and a tad bit short. Truthfully, I would not wait more than 40 minutes for this roller coaster. I stood in line for 90, and it was not worth it. Don't go on this ride if you have to wait more than 40. Your time can be better spent somewhere else. Other attractions, like the Mario Kart ride, I was actually pleasantly surprised with. Going in, I didn't have the highest expectations because looking at the POVs online, I thought that the ride had great set pieces, but it was way too slow. Don't worry, if you had the exact same mindset, you'll get over it. The headset and play feature more than make up for the lack of speed. My only critique with the goggles is that they're kind of heavy after a while. Your head kind of gets exhausted after about 5 minutes, and sometimes the characters on the glasses get a bit distracting from all the set pieces around you, so you can't fully appreciate the setting you're in. The last ride on this land is Yoshi Adventure, and do not bother with this one. I walked onto this attraction, but it was still not worth the wait. It's slow, it's short, there's barely anything to it. Do not waste your time. If you want to ride it just to ride it, that's fine, but you do not need to do it more than once. I don't see myself ever going back on this thing, and I'm okay with that. It's more of an attraction for very young children, like 3 and under. I did like seeing the Magic Koopa though, I enjoyed that. Moving on past Super Nintendo World, let's walk over to the Dark Universe. My most anticipated land at Epic Universe, and I have to say, after experiencing it, I was kind of disappointed. Out of every single land at Epic, I felt like this one was going to cater to me the most, because I love horror movies and I love the classic monsters. So this land drew me in like a moth to a flame. But the reason why I was disappointed by Dark Universe is because it's kind of small. This land is tiny. When you walk in, you're greeted by the village of Darkmoor, a gothic town with Frankenstein Manor right in front of you. And I'm sorry, Disney, Haunted Mansion looks like small potatoes compared to Frankenstein. And the ride, I'm not going to mention any spoilers, but it's my favorite ride at Epic Universe. Hands down. I just wish the land of Darkmoor just had a bit more. Frankly, most of the land is catering to the Curse of the Werewolf attraction. This ride, despite being a shuttle coaster and a small footprint, it takes up half of the land. From every single angle in the land, you can see the Curse of the Werewolf. And it's pretty distracting. This shouldn't be the focal point of the land. I want to see more of the village. I want to see more of Darkmoor. But once you get past Frankenstein's castle, you got the burning windmill, and that's about it. Curse of the Werewolf is the true centerpiece of Darkmoor. Darkmoor actually would have been better if they didn't have Curse of the Werewolf, and they expanded the village instead. That way Darkmoor can feel more like a town, instead of 4 major buildings. Curse of the Werewolf, it's a decent enough coaster. Families will love it, but I would be lying if I said that Dark Universe needed this attraction, because they don't. It probably would have been better to expand Darkmoor instead of installing this roller coaster. Dark Universe is by far the prime contender for a land expansion at Epic, because there is so much potential of the classic Monsters IP, so I really hope the current iteration of Darkmoor isn't the final product. Now, other lands like the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and the Ministry of Magic, I regret to inform you that yes, I did not get on Ministry. Yeah, blame the stupid virtual queue system. Really, Universal, the virtual queue was just horrendous, terrible execution. I, for the life of me, could not secure a spot on the virtual queue. Here I thought Disney's virtual queue system was bad. No, Universal, your queue is way worse. At least with Disney, I can refresh it and click one button to get the virtual queue. For this, I have to exit in and out of the page, I have to select my party, and then try to select the time. I couldn't even get past the party size. It kept saying that the virtual queue was sold out before I can even select my time. And once it hit 11:03 or 6 o'clock, there was a time delay. The virtual queue didn't open yet. So I was panicking, having a heart attack, just thinking about trying to secure a virtual queue, and I didn't get it. By far the worst part of my day. I did not get on Ministry. I didn't even get to walk through the queue of the Ministry of Magic, because the ride was breaking down too much. Again, technical rehearsals, I get it. But I really wanted to ride this thing. It was my most anticipated attraction at Epic, and I didn't get on it. What a shame. But besides the Ministry of Magic, the actual land for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, oh, it looks great. Top notch. A near 1-for-1 scale of Paris. Everything is very lifelike. That being said, it's not my favorite Harry Potter land. Actually, it's probably my least favorite Harry Potter land. If I had to rank the lands, I would probably pick Hogsmeade, then Diagon Alley, then 1920s Paris. Now, of course, my opinion is not set in stone. Again, I did not get on Ministry, so I imagine once I get to experience that ride and the queue, then my opinion will shift. But as of right now, just observing the land as it is without the ride, it's not my favorite Harry Potter land. And I think that stems from the idea that this isn't really Harry Potter. The other Harry Potter lands, you can definitely tell they are pulled straight from the movies. They're very whimsical and imaginative, with abstract architecture. 1920s Paris? Not really. It's just Paris. You can't really tell it's a Harry Potter land until you look at the finer details. Once you notice the interactivity within the land and the hidden creatures within the shop windows, that's when you start to realize that this is a Harry Potter land. If you were an outsider looking in and you knew nothing about the Harry Potter franchise, you would just think this was a Paris land and nothing more. The Ministry of Magic is the main draw for Harry Potter fans, and I didn't get to experience that. Same with the show, that wasn't operating when I was there. Until I actually get to experience Harry Potter in full, this land, it's not going to rank too high for me. But let's move on to the final land, How to Train Your Dragon. Now, I have not seen any How to Train Your Dragon movies. I know, what is wrong with me? I was going to do it before I came, but I procrastinated on that, so I don't really know any of the references within the land. But that doesn't matter, because I have to say, this is by far the best kids area at Universal. Sorry, Dr. Seuss and DreamWorks Land, How to Train Your Dragon has you you beat. The roller coaster is the main attraction here, and when I was looking at the animation for this roller coaster, I was thinking, it's kind of short, it's not gonna be that intense, it's probably a one and done. Nope, don't underestimate this little beast. It is a perfectly suitable family coaster with a mesmerizing toothless animatronic. Ooh, Universal, you've really come a long way with your animatronics. Moreover, this ride's got some decent forces to it. Not quite Hagrid's level of intensity, but it's up there. Just be aware that you're likely gonna get stapled, because a lap bar does continuously come down during the ride. Other attractions here include Dragon Racer Rally, along with Fire Drill, two rides that I did not do. Sorry, these rides were just not top priority to me. I also did not do the How to Train Your Dragon show. Again, like Harry Potter, it was not working that day. The land itself, like every other land at this park, it's very detailed. I like how there's actual animatronic dragons laid about along the pathways, like the Ice Dragon. I've heard some people complain about this animatronic because you can see the base connecting the head, so the illusion doesn't work. No, in real life, the dragon is decently high off the ground, so you're not really gonna see much behind the curtain. What surprised me the most about How to Train Your Dragon was just how big this land was. Of all the lands at Epic Universe, this one was by far given the most space, and I don't see an issue with that. The land is so gorgeous with the Scottish-inspired overtones. I was in How to Train Your Dragon a lot longer than I expected, because typically I never stick around a kid's land for too long. I usually just walk right through them. No, here I decided to take 2 laps around the land because I wanted to experience it more. I even considered going on the coaster again, but I opted out because of, time constraints. But after How to Train Your Dragon, that pretty much wraps up all the lands at Epic Universe. There is, of course, Celestial Park, which Universal considers to be their 5th land. However, I do not consider this to be a 5th land. It's more of that central hub that connects all the other lands. Yes, it's got its own separate theme to differentiate itself, but I don't know, it doesn't feel like anything more than a walking zone. Unless you're going to Stardust Racers, then Celestial Park has a purpose. I'm not going to talk about this ride too much because I want to do a separate review on it later, but I'm going to tell you right now that Stardust is better than Velocicoaster. Yeah, it is. The airtime is, chef's kiss, impeccable. I thought this ride was going to crawl through its layout. Don't underestimate it, believe the hype. If only the ride was dueling when I went. Yeah, I didn't see this thing race one time. It was only running the yellow side for about 2/3 of the day. The ride was running at 25% capacity, so the green side was down, and the yellow side was only running 2 trains. So the line was moving at a snail's pace, but that didn't stop me from getting 4 rides in Stardust. The coaster might not have much of a theme, but it is wicked. Universal, keep building coasters like this. Please, I'll never get tired of them. Overall, I had a pleasant time at Epic Universe. The only thing I would change about my day is getting on Monsters one more time, because I only got on it once, getting on Ministry, that was a bust, and getting a duel on Stardust Racers. If the stars aligned on those 3 experiences, then I would say I had a perfect day. Now, if everything did go right, would I still agree with my notion that this is my 3rd favorite theme park? Or would I choose to bump it up a slot? As of now, no. There are still 2 other theme parks I think are better than Epic Universe, those being Disneyland and Islands of Adventure. Even with that new car smell that Epic has, I would still take Islands of Adventure. The park just feels more well-rounded, and it's not a dig at Epic Universe, the park just opened. Maybe a few years down the line when they open their next land or their next expansion, my opinion will change. But as of now, I would still say Islands is the superior property. Even if some of the lands at Islands of Adventure are objectively worse than Epic, I would still take this park. I'm pretty partial to Islands. Also, Islands, they do have one attribute that succeeds Epic Universe, that being their sightlines. Epic Universe kind of has a sightline problem. The whole premise of Epic Universe is that you enter a portal and you're immersed within the land. It's just you and the setting. However, some of the lands don't really feel like that. For instance, Celestial Park. When you walk in, you're supposed to get that grand reveal with the Helios Hotel in the backdrop, while witnessing the ponds, the fountains, and the architecture. But off to the sides of Celestial Park, you can clearly see all the lands, especially Super Nintendo World. Ugh, that thing does not have a flattering exterior. It's literally all wall. And in other lands like Dark Universe, you can easily see the Helios from any position, and it is an eyesore. Same with How to Train Your Dragon, the Helios is right there in your sightline, along with Stardust, but at least Stardust has warmer colors to at least least attempt to blend it in. The Helios, it's a hotel. It is very out of place. Islands of Adventure can also have a sightline problem, but at Epic, it feels more noticeable, especially when the whole park's theme is the portals. You're supposed to enter and block out the rest of the world. In some lands, you just don't get that. Either way, Epic Universe, it's a slam dunk for Universal. Just like how the first Wizarding World of Harry Potter changed the theme park industry, I do think this park will have a similar effect. Disney, they are going to have to try so hard to compete with this park, because I would take this over every single park at Walt Disney World. Epic is just bigger, more themed, and it doesn't feature any dead zones within the park. At each and every Disney park, there's always one land or section where I think, this place looks cheap, or they should really tear it down and make room for something else. At Epic, no. No. Every land here has a purpose. Everything here is phenomenal. I would never call any of these lands half-assed or boring. They're all amazing in their own way. And I still can't believe that Universal was able to pull this park off. It is for sure going to be exciting to see this park grow, evolve, and change over the coming years.